Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome! And if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we love to see it and I hope you're doing well. It's season 12, the last season of the pre-movie era. With over 200 episodes under our belt at this point, it's incredible to see how much the show has evolved in the time it took to get a full theatrical release. But how did the show handle having a split writing team and the anticipation of a big screen event? Well, there's only one way to find out and 3 questions that must be asked. What worked, what failed, what lofty dreams will be curtailed? Understand your senses of selves, because it's time to delve into season 12. I know I used delve already, 12 is hard. Millie gave Louise a rare Borobu card, so Louise is obligated to spend time in the park with Millie today. However, once she gets to the park, Millie reveals she wants Louise to be her spy on the inside of a Pixie Forest dream experience where at the end of the magical forest journey, every good girl gets a magical wand, and Millie wants the pink rose one she was denied because she assaulted the guy playing a rhyming gnome. Louise tries to speedrun the whole thing and ends up getting them all in trouble until they're cheesing it. The B story has a mysterious bouquet dropped off at the restaurant, and Linda thinks it reminds her of her childhood dog that was run over right in front of her, and it helps her process her trauma. Turns out it was accidentally sent to the restaurant instead of Mort's, and he needs it back, dealing with the awkward situation, which is honestly great. I love that she's so invested in it, and he's got to be the one who goes, oh, it's not your dead dog at all. It's just for a funeral where someone died and they like dogs, I guess. Yay! You know what? It's Bob's Burgers. It's Linda thinking way too deep about a flower bouquet and making it everyone else's issue, while Louise forces her way through a magic fairy adventure. It's honestly super refreshing, and I was so happy to have an episode like this. Especially considering the last season. I will take a weird experience, and it's a Louise and Millie adventure that actually has them being something of friends. Louise has built a weird little community around herself, and it's kind of based, as the kids say. Manic Pixie Crap Show is bathed in rainbows. 8 out of 10. Mr. Frann gives Tina a crystal his girlfriend gave him to try and give her the power to give her speech with Zeke, and they knock it out of the park. Therefore, obviously, Tina has magical properties whenever she has the crystal on her. Yay, it's this kind of story. People start renting time out with Tina to do better and better until Tammy tries to steal the crystal and it shatters because Tammy's just, say it with me now, the worst. Oh look, Tina is talking about how the crystal didn't give her the power and she starts trauma dumping on the audience before scurrying off. Classic Tina. Ho 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 ho. That sure is a Tina story. At least she wasn't falling in love with The Rock, I guess. The B story has Bob trying to push disfigured produce on people to help reduce food waste in the world. He's trying to do the noble thing, but before long they're all going bad anyway and he still has to throw the veggies out. Again, it's just more of the same old Bob's Burgers, and it beats them having worms. It's a very low bar to clear, but a very important one. Though I do wish the A and B stories did more, I will at least appreciate that they're fine. Have Bob try and incorporate the weird-looking fruits and vegetables somehow. Have Tina, I don't know, yeah, maybe she falls in love with a crystal guy or something. Frann's girlfriend, show her. Stop telling us she exists. Give us this weird crystal person. Give us something to latch onto to elevate the episode. It's a story that you've seen before, but at least it's trying. Crystal Mess is shattered, yet saved. 7 out of 10. It's our Halloween episode. Ooh! And look at that! It has a flashback to when Linda and Gail were in high school and they ended up trashing all the pumpkins for the pumpkin carving contest. Years later, they both get a letter accusing them of squashing the squashes. The B story has Bob tired of the kids complaining about his candy he gives out, so he decides to get some sour sack babies, and they make the restaurant one of the most popular houses of the year, but the kids miss out on their cut because of it. It's such a small B story because they focus so much time on Gail and Linda, and it's honestly terrific. John Roberts really does do a fantastic job with Linda, and you can feel the building fear in both her and Gail's voices as they keep trying to get to the bottom of everything, even going to a pet groomer and finding out that Linda was supposed to win the contest and destroyed the pumpkins so Gail wouldn't feel bad. So, if Linda was supposed to win, who cares that they did any of this? Obviously, it was Gail's life coach, Dane, played by Joel Kim Booster. I kind of love him. He just sort of jumps out of nowhere, goes, "It was me," and tells Gail to tackle her past, and it's frankly just perfect. I didn't dislike it at all, and this quickly became one of my favorite Halloween episodes of all time. Fantastic jokes, great writing, and everyone is being their best selves. Everything I could ever want, and it's, again, just super refreshing compared to the Halloween episode of last season. The Pumpkining is a carved and illuminated 9 out of 10. Bob goes up with Teddy to pick up a sink, and Linda and the kids compete to see who can win Restaurant Employee of the Day and win 10 uninterrupted seconds with the soft serve machine. Linda, of course, buckling in the 11th hour so the kids can win and get their ice cream because she loves her kids. You can't be mad at her. It's sweet and simple, and at least the kids are trying, even if they need motivation to, and Louise always has to negotiate a deal instead of just sort of, doing it. But hey, I get it. That's what kids do. They're supposed to be frustrating. The bulk of the episode focuses around Bob losing his mind as Teddy talks everyone's ear off and stops for every little thing. Bob tagged along with Teddy because he thought Teddy was lonely. But the more he interacts with people, the more Bob realizes Teddy actually has a ton of people he talks to and interacts with on a daily basis. Bob only knows a part of Teddy and how he views him. Everyone else seems to love when Teddy asks questions about their lives, and Teddy always makes a point to remember key elements about the people he interacts with so that he can follow up on it and show that he genuinely cares. He's gone so much of his life trying to fix people's lives and tried to be a fly on the wall, and sure, yeah, that makes him feel like a lonely person, but he's still trying to make everyone he's around happy. Yes, he absolutely drives Bob nuts, and understandably so, but you also get to see Teddy just be Teddy, and that's kinda great. It's the road trip you didn't know you needed to see, and there's actually a really significant emotional core that you wouldn't initially expect. There's just a lot of heart here, and I'm kinda glad that here we are moving away from season 11 and we're getting great Bob episodes again. We're getting weird episodes where Teddy and Bob are taking a giant dummy head around. That's great. Driving Big Dummy is a head tipping, road tripping 9 out of 10. When a salon opens up next door, they're able to get Linda in, but Linda fears going and invoking the wrath of the mighty Gretchen for getting her hair done somewhere else. She sends Bob over to get it so she doesn't miss the appointment, and eventually decides to just stick with Gretchen because Gretchen will always know what she likes best. What a great B story. Yep, B story. I'll say this, I like that Gretchen's her unhinged friend. Linda doesn't have normal friends. Even Ginger, I'm sure, went on adventures with her. It's dumb fun that Bob goes, gets his hair done, and where you expect like Frosted Tips from like King of the Hill, he comes back and you can't tell that he got his hair done. He looks exactly the same, and I kind of love that. He's just, Bob, but Bob with confidence now. Who's stalling? You're stalling. You want the A story? Fine. Gene is doing a life worksheet for his class and needs to find a fake job, apartment, car, and all that good stuff. However, overwhelmed by everything he's going through, Gene decides to go to kids camp at the rec center instead and pretends to be the world's largest 7-year-old. He's giving up his responsibilities to double down on face paint and nap times. What is going on with Gene? What is this weird regressive thing they're doing with him? They had so many great Gene episodes and now it's like they've forgotten how to ever write him the right way again. What happened to this poor boy? He gets signed out of kids club by Gus and then eventually by his dad and decides to be 11 again. Oh good. So glad we had this resolution. Remember when he refused to let his mom go last season? Just give me a normal Gene episode. That's really all I ask. 7 tween again is a hair-raising, age-lowering 6 out of 10. The kids have to clean up the beach over by Wonder Wharf, and Louise starts negotiating with the fish owners on behalf of the kids to get something for their back-breaking work since the camera crews are coming to do some promo shots of the theme park. Fun fact, Mickey in this episode would actually be played by series creator Lauren Bouchard rather than Bill Hader. And so, the kids clean the entire beach up for some massive hot dogs, and Calvin tries to go back on his word and have carnies throw trash back on the beach to show they didn't do it. It's refreshing to get more of Louise v. Calvin. We got some of it back in the taking of Funhouse 123, but now they're actively clashing again, and you can see she's sort of holding her own against him. This isn't the kids run the restaurant again. They're not as easy to trick anymore, and it's a small amount of growth that helps the show as a whole really start to develop more. The B story has Teddy showing off his new lip accessory, a mustache of his very own. He's giddy that he gets to share grooming tips with Bob, who just kinda grows his and doesn't think about it. It's honestly a perfectly serviceable episode that plays exactly how you think it would. Teddy shaves and the kids get their taco dogs but not their time at the park because Calvin isn't about to lose too much to a child. Like, that's perfectly on brand. I'm not mad about it. We're 12 seasons deep, and this is the season where they had to spread their resources for the movie, and it's still kinda solid? That really says something about the creative team, and even looking at the rest of the season, it's, just sort of more of this same quality. Beach Please is a cleaned up and taco meat filled 7 out of 10. Tina and Louise are tired of sharing a desk, so Linda wants to build a loft bed for Louise so they can fit a desk in her room and give them both the space they need. Bob says to wait for Teddy, but you know that dinosaur report waits for no one, so they decide to build it themselves. What's your favorite dinosaur? Leave it down in the comments below. Mine's the Iguanodon. That's a lie. It's Spinosaurus. The B story has Bob encouraging a DM, Dungeon Master, who's running and hosting the D&D campaign at the restaurant. The DM, Shirley, would be played by Danette Wilson. Alec Mappa would be Merfurion, and Lady Canifer would be played by Christine Medrano. It's an anxious DM hosting her first play session. Anyone that's DM'd knows that it's a spooky thing putting yourself out there like that. Look at that. She has an encounter she thinks they're gonna like, but wants to scrap it because she's having second thoughts and it might be stupid. Aw, look at her self-doubting, stinking thinking. You love to see it. It's just, look at that. That's real human motivation. The loft building is, they struggle to build a loft and then they do, and it's an institution of the rest of the show. Louise will be shown in that loft going forward, and it's fine. All of it is fine and totally and utterly human. That is a regular weekend at the Belcher house, and it's honestly great that it's just so wholesome in a way. No one's dropping acid and screaming as a hurricane whirs outside. Sometimes you just build a loft and it's hard to do and it's gonna be clunky and it's fine. Sometimes those quiet days are all you need. Loft in Bedslation is a creative encounter producing 8 out of 10. It's our Thanksgiving episode! The family is volunteering at the retirement home, and Sergeant Bosco is struggling with spending the holiday with his mom and trying to get her to engage with the home activities, while also trying to show that he does love her in his way, and he's not his brother who couldn't visit her. Linda spends her time in the home trying to get his mom to see that Sergeant Bosco isn't so bad. Tina and Jean help Zeke entertain the folks, and when the chefs have to leave, it's up to Bob to prepare the retirement home's Thanksgiving feast, and he's actually super excited about it. Louise gets sent in to be with her dad and decides to sabotage his cooking, so he'll kick her out of the kitchen and she'll get to do whatever she wants. Oh, good. So glad Louise decided to be the antagonist. Oh, but Bob finds a torch and Louise wants to use it, so she cares again. Woo! Louise being selfish and not understanding why people care about things. What an absolute banger episode idea. Like, Bob's not even getting paid, but he's looking around, seeing more food and seeing more opportunities to really make something special, and Louise is just adding roadblock after roadblock until she can actually get something out of it. It's just frustrating. It could have been her doing her best and him being overly critical and realizing he needs to dial it down, but no, that I guess would be too easy. We kinda get those elements, but she quickly spirals on it. He just takes things from her when she starts messing up, so yeah, he wouldn't want her around the torch, he wouldn't want her hurt. I just feel like it could have been set up better. Also, huge shout out to Stephanie Beatrice this episode. I could barely recognize her as Deirdre, and you can tell she's just that passionate about voice acting. She's a fantastic talent and it really does shine through here, and I love that she is showing up throughout the series as a recurring voice. She's a wonderful addition. I like that they're in the retirement home and they actually have a reason to be out of the house on Thanksgiving that actually has them giving back to the community. The Belchers are good people at the end of the day. I just wish Louise gave literally anyone as much understanding as she's been given time and time again. But also, she's a kid and isn't going to have that introspection all the time. It's a toss-up. Stuck in the Kitchen with You is a marshmallow melting, parade watching, 7 out of 10. A family used to live where the Belchers do, and they want to come and visit, and Linda's super excited to show off. Fun fact, Kevin Avery and Danielle Gaither, who play Victor and Violet this episode, would also both work on The Great North, with Kevin Avery actually writing a couple episodes. Robin Thede would also guest star as the mom. The bulk of the episode is Tina and Susmita in their photography class, and Tina's struggling while Tammy and the, I guess, cool kids use the photography class as a way to ditch school and get slushies. Oh look, Tina takes a great picture, but it has evidence that Tammy and everyone was skipping, so Tammy wants to destroy the evidence. Oh no. I can't pretend to care about that group anymore. It's the epitome of a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. Oh, Tammy and Jocelyn bad, Jimmy Jr. dances, and Zeke could find better friends. You know what? I could just completely blast these elements, but instead I'm gonna say, I enjoy Mr. DeSanto. I had no idea it was Nick Kroll, and you can tell he's at least trying with the character. There's something there to actually work with, and I don't know, he quickly became one of my favorite teacher characters of the whole show. Even if the episode is one of the weakest of the seasons, he isn't a reason it's brought down. He just adds an extra element to it. He's so blasé about it and is ready to just crack the hammer down on anyone that's caught skipping in his class, because he's the cool teacher, but he's not that cool. FOMO You Didn't is a Red Room illuminating 5 out of 10. It's our Christmas episode! Ho ho! How are we still doing this after so long? Gene loves a weird, out there, synthy Christmas album from the 70s that drives Bob crazy since he keeps playing it over and over and over as the Christmas DJ. However, he ends up accidentally breaking it while sleeping with the album, and wouldn't you know it, Percy McTinselbud's Tinsel Machine is a rare LP for some reason. Who knew? So yeah, the bulk of the A story is Gene running around trying to find another copy and even going to Courtney and her dad for help, which they admittedly do try and support him however they can. The family even get together and make their own version of the album that Gene initially hates until a dream of Percy McTinselbud teaches him the reason for the season. Percy being played spectacularly by returning great Dana Snyder. It's a Gene story. It's okay, and frankly, that's good enough to make it one of the top 10 Gene episodes I've seen in the last 3 seasons. Oh boy. But the real magic of the episode is the B story, where Bob, Linda, and the neighborhood do a Secret Santa. Bob struggles with a gift for Mike the mailman, Teddy doesn't know what to get Mort, but when the gifts are out, Mike loves his gift card, Linda washed the family car for Bob, and Mort got Teddy a little plaque with his name on it so they could put it on his stool at the restaurant. A super small gift that shows Teddy the people around him see him and care about him, and they want him to have a spot. He got Mort a calendar. The B story is just so normal yet touching, and the A story isn't completely annoying. Not my favorite Christmas episode, but absolutely not the worst either. Something I say pretty frequently, I know, but they know what they're doing with the Christmas stories. I don't know what you want from me. They're usually bangers. Gene's Christmas Break is a holiday-delightful, groove-adelic 8 out of 10. The B story has Bob and Linda arguing about what they want to happen with their bodies when they die. Linda wants to be cremated and Bob wants to be buried, but as they keep fighting about it, Bob gives in and just admits he doesn't want to be alone when they die and he'll do whatever she wants. Then they find out how expensive it is and the entire thing is shelved. Cool. Awesome. really glad we just had a nothing story that did nothing. At least it shows that Bob and Linda care about each other. Aw, isn't that a sweet story, even if it's just brochures and talking? The A story is kinda slightly incredibly infuriating. It's time for teacher evaluation, so all the students are told to be honest about how they feel about each of the teachers and to be professional. Louise realizes that the moment everyone turns their evaluations in, the teachers won't be nice to them anymore, and she says they can hold the school hostage and make the teachers do whatever they want. You wanna know why Miss LeBons wants to do well on the evals? Because she has to walk 4 blocks from the overflow lot and wants a main lot spot. She puts up with Louise constantly, and Louise writes the most scathing, harsh evaluation she could possibly about her teacher. She calls her old, haggard, and just overall burnt out. You're supposed to like Louise. I don't know. She has not been great this season. It's a Louise and LeBons episode, weirdly enough, and it does a great job of humanizing LeBons and showing us more of who she is, but it's also just more Louise being just totally oblivious to how other people operate. Like, Miss LeBons is combative with Louise because she knows Louise is way smarter than she lets on. She challenges Louise because she knows she can do better and needs conflict to improve. Louise is shocked when she finds out an adult could possibly know more than her, and oh look, she has a realization and is giving her actual evaluation over the PA, even though she was the source of the conflict in the beginning. Yay! Mr. Franz suggested the evals. You could have just as easily had him be the big bad doing something stupid, but nope, it's Louise, because that's the easy way out. I liked the Louise-LeBons bonding, but it just felt forced after a point. Touch of Evaluations is a 4s across the board, 8 out of 10. It's our Valentine's Day episode! Bob and Linda get invited to a fancy dinner on King's Head Island after the head chef of a fancy restaurant loves their burgers. Again, Bob is getting complimented by professionals and shows that he's a great cook in his own right. They take a ferry, however they got on the wrong ferry, end up on the complete opposite end of the island, and struggle to make it over in time for the reservation, and that's really the whole A story. They're trekking through mud, asking where they can get a taxi, and of course all the taxis aren't running, so they have to help herd sheep that got out so they can get a ride. They're trying to be the best power couple they can be and struggle to make it to a romantic dinner they more than earned. And that's the A story. Bob and Linda loving each other and powering through so they can enjoy their time together on Valentine's Day. Again, they make such an incredible married couple, and it's so healthy to see. Marge has threatened to leave or has left Homer well over a dozen times. Lois actively hates Peter most of the time. Even Beef in the Great North is a single dad showcasing a non-nuclear family dynamic and how that can work. And those are all shows that come on around Bob's Burgers, where Bob and Linda are weird, awkward, they fight, but they still love each other at the end of the day, and that's phenomenal for their characters. It again adds another layer of comfort that those core relationships aren't manipulated for the sake of the story. Remember Seaplane? Linda's with Upskirt Kurt, doesn't cheat, and never even considers it because she's Linda. We're 12 seasons in, and Bob and Linda are that same couple, maybe arguably stronger. It's just really fascinating to see. But what's even more exciting is the B story. The kids want to get discount candy, so they plan on sneaking past Jen. However, Jen wants them to go to their rooms because she's got a hot notarizing date coming over. Oh man. Christopher, her seemingly adult crush, will be played by a man that knows a thing or two about pumpkins, fireworks, and what to eat for breakfast. The one, the only, Joe Pera. Seriously, the fall season is the best time to watch Joe Pera Talks with You. Talk about a show taken way too soon. Yeah, it's really just exciting because you get to hear Joe Pera's sweet monotone musings, but it's still sweet even Jen is trying to find someone. The episode as a whole is just a celebration of Bob and Linda's love and how they endure challenge after challenge on the daily, and even if they're dirty and muddy, they love one another, and that's really never gonna stop. Ferry on, my wayward Bob and Linda is a power couple approving, Joe Pera viewing, 9 out of 10. The ship Teddy served on when he was in the Navy is being decommissioned, and he doesn't want to go until Linda convinces him it'll be good for him. That's right, folks, it's a Teddy episode, baby! Teddy backstory? Hell yeah! Banana bread at work, dude? Hell yeah! The family goes with Teddy to the decommissioning celebration, and yeah, it's the Belchers on a boat with Teddy. Again. Turns out Teddy didn't want to go to the event because he fell off the side of the boat twice in his service and never stopped getting ribbed for it. Everyone would mock him about it, and he kept trying to prove himself. Oh, and Linda wanders the boat, and Bob is really bad at tying knots, even though he looked like a former soldier. Oh look, someone fell overboard, and Teddy goes to help them while Bob ties the rope down to help out. Look at that, he did learn something. It's honestly a really simple Bob's Burgers episode, but it works because it's Teddy focused. The Belchers are the strangers in the situation. Teddy is bringing them into his world, and we actually get to meet the people he worked with. It's those little peeks into people's lives that I really appreciate, and while yeah, the episode is basic, it still got solid jokes and again, a concrete idea of what they wanted to do. Just for context, Season 12 of Family Guy had such classics as Brian's a Bad Dad and Herpes the Love Sore, and even Season 12 of American Dad was much more experimental than the earlier seasons, and really its own beast. The fact we've had some amount of consistency this deep into the 12th season speaks volumes for Bob's Burgers. Is this the best the show has to offer? No, absolutely not. But I at least commend them for doing something different and doing it well. Forget Me Not is a tied snug 8 out of 10. I have watched this episode 4 times just for this review. Because it's good? Nope. Because I keep thinking I skipped it. Because every time I sat down to write about it, I couldn't remember the A story, but I remembered the B story vividly. Let's get through the A story because it's a lot. Tina and Louise are bribed by Courtney with candy to get Gene to finally agree to be in her music video, even though he has refused time and time again and has absolutely no interest whatsoever. They manage to coerce Gene to be in the music video and guilt trip him to keep him going along with it. Alright, sure. Any wacky twist or anything? Nope. Gene does something he absolutely hates, and when he can't take it anymore and snaps that everything is awful and sends Courtney crying, he gets guilt-tripped into sucking it up to do something that his friend wants to do because she wants to do it, and he just needs to support her. Remember when Courtney bribed his own sisters to get him to do the music video? He was already saying no. You think he was gonna magically be all on board after a second? She knew she bribed them. She was very clear. But now Gene's the one that has to apologize to her? She doesn't even say anything, and then they just sort of finish the music video. It's a dumb, bad story that is frankly one of the worst A stories of the entire show. It's just Gene being miserable, reacting, getting put down for it, and doing what he hated anyway because his sisters got to enjoy candy. It's not funny, and you just end up feeling bad for Gene, which is so damn frustrating. I guess at least it's technically a good Gene episode because Gene isn't in the wrong. He didn't do anything bad. The A story is abysmal, utter genuine garbage. And yet the B story is so incredible, I almost didn't care. A customer comes into the restaurant with a briefcase and just quietly eats a burger without really interacting with anyone. Steve Agee of Peacemaker would play the man Billy Bandana, and I adore his performance. It's a lot like Greg Berger's performance in Men in Black the Animated Series or Corn-Fed Pig in Duckman. It's great. He leaves his attaché, and so Linda naturally takes it and starts wondering what it is. Of course, Linda and Teddy think severed hands because there's no way it's business stuff like floppy disks, it weighs too much. Bob is staunchly against them doing anything, and then, bam, of course, Teddy breaks it open and there's just a bunch of walnuts for some reason. Just a weird dude comes into the restaurant and Bob and the gang are just weird back. I was crying, I was laughing so hard at this B story, and I watched it 4 times. It got me every single time. It's great. Yeah. The A story is awful, but I got so excited when I saw that nutcase. Video Killed the Genio star is locked up and nutless 7 out of 10. Louise is excited to go through the Greek unit in her class because the teacher sets them up in a circle and hands out special coins for right answers that can be used at a special gift shop. However, when Louise is in class and the teacher has her back turned to her since she's teaching in a circle and doesn't call on her or Rudy or Millie, Louise, Rudy, and Millie decide to take matters into their own hands and end up making fake coins so they can get prizes and betray the trust of the teacher. I get Louise is 9 and doesn't fully understand things, but here's a teacher that uses her own money to make the coins, to get the prizes, to turn the whole class into a mini Grease to make it more engaging for her students, and when kids don't get what they want, they go behind her back instead of talking to her about it? It's rigged? You didn't think to have rotating seats so everyone is able to be seen? Even in the end of it, when Louise is trying to get away with everything without consequences, it just feels wrong. Louise is 9, but also makes counterfeit coins. You get one or the other, not both. The B story is a tale as old as time. Linda thrashes in her sleep and it wakes Bob up, so he decides to go and sleep on the couch. He sleeps great, so he starts to get used to it until he gets the even better idea of going to the basement. He sets up his own mini apartment, misses Linda, invites her down to his little dad pad, and then just goes back up to their bed because it's worth getting kicked to be next to his wife. Which, if that's not one of the most relatable stories I've ever seen, I frankly don't know what is. The episode is good, and remember, if it can elicit emotion out of you, that means the writing served its purpose. You're not supposed to like what Louise is doing, and they're very clear on that. I also appreciate that Gene and Tina are very enthusiastic supporting characters this episode. They're just there and happy to help. Ancient Misbehavin' is a foil core deep snore 8 out of 10. We knew it was going to happen eventually, so here we are, the anthology episode of the season. Fun fact, this would be the first time Eric Bauza would play Big Bob, taking over for Bill Hader, much like how Lauren Bouchard took over for him for Mickey earlier in the season. He would also be the new voice of Jimmy Pesto going forward. Tina needs to interview her grandpa for her class, and Bob mentions a tree story his dad told him from before Bob was born, but he was very tight-lipped with the details. So all the kids come up with their own explanations for the infamous tree event. The first is a Jack and the Beanstalk story, because why not? And the second is a forest alien invasion that seems very reminiscent of John Carpenter's They Live, starring the late Rowdy Roddy Piper and a very young Keith David, who would be a recurring actor in the Carpenterverse, even showing up in The Thing opposite Kurt Russell, another frequent John Carpenter player. Yep, sure is an anthology episode. At least they only do 2 stories this time instead of 3, and they do have some room to breathe, but the Beanstalk story is just way too long. The alien one is fine, I didn't hate it all that much, it just didn't do anything. Literally, the only saving grace of the episode is Big Bob opens up about the story, and it turns out when he just avoided being crushed by a tree, he knew he had to marry Bob's mom because he couldn't imagine a life without her, and didn't want that to be his last memory. It's sweet and honest and does kind of rebound the episode, but overall it's just not all that interesting. Interview with the Pop Pop Pyre is a stalked and abducted 6 out of 10. I don't know how to feel about this episode, gang. Louise's friends say they don't like how risky and dangerous Louise is sometimes, and she doesn't get it. They don't want to break a mirror, and she absolutely does, just to see what would happen. She's just being herself and doesn't want to be less authentic. I get it, but also they do kind of bring up some valid points. A lot of the issues that happen to those kids come from Louise's crazy ideas. Maybe if Louise slowed down and looked at life, breathed in a little bit, things might not be so bad. And so, Louise bonds with the spider and keeps it as a pet, even as everyone tells her to get rid of it because it scares them. The spider gets out of its box after Louise tries to hide it, and it ends up hiding in Bob and Linda's bed, and they have to get it out, and Bob lets her keep the spider in the basement. Okay. The B story? Nut briefcase? Tiny Coat Rex 2, the Re-Rackening? Nope. Bob texts the dad group. Teddy gets jealous and texts Bob. That's it. I mean, there is an emotional core with Louise and the spider, but it just doesn't really do anything with it. Yeah, no one says Louise has to be less like herself, but also, the spider gets put in the basement and everyone just sort of goes on with their lives. It's a flatline episode that doesn't really have a hook. There's no suspense, drama, a proper climax, it's just this steady through line. By the time it was over, I already forgot about it. Spider House Rules is a group chat uniting, finger slicing 5 out of 10. Ginger is coming over! We're finally gonna hear Ginger! Ginger, Ginger, Ginger. Ginger's coming over, and Linda is super stoked. She's got the good wine and everything. Well, turns out Ginger's car broke down. She's gonna take a second to get there. Meanwhile, Gretchen and Gail come over, and Linda hangs out with them, but quickly shoos them out so she doesn't have her friends co-mingling. Okay. Oh, look, Linda invites Ginger over to Gretchen so they can all hang out, and we get to see the back of Ginger's head before Gretchen tries to fight her in fencing gear. Awesome. It's an episode that sure does happen. The B story is fun enough that I just don't care, though. Nat is in the Limo Olympics, and the kids and Bob are helping out. So it's just them competing in the games and being their best Belcher selves. It's not an episode for me, but you know what? It's a perfectly decent episode of Bob's Burgers. It has two fully realized ideas and does have a little bit of emotional depth while still having great jokes. It was also a decent Gretchen episode, which seems to be fewer and fewer lately, and it wasn't bad at all. I genuinely kinda love that Gretchen's getting this rework. She's wild, she's weird, but she's always going to be in Linda's corner. While I do prefer Linda and Teddy episodes, it's always nice to have Linda branching out. It is kind of funny, though, that Bob keeps making all these friends, but Linda really just has her core three, one not even counting because it's her sister. And yet, she's the more outgoing one. It's just kind of funny to look at. A clear and present Ginger is a zombie squirting 7 out of 10. Gene is absolutely and utterly obsessed with a Tamagotchi and wants to take care of it every waking minute of every waking day. He's tucking it in, feeding it, everything. Which I'm glad to see Gene taking care of something, since that was a plot point earlier in the show, except this is just a straight up obsession with a Tamagotchi. Genie weenie, it's not that deep. It's got the memory of like a Texas Instruments calculator, and I feel like that's insulting a Texas Instruments calculator. Bob even tries to help him with a school project about planting sprout seeds and documenting the growth that Bob is just infinitely more invested in than Gene. Gene has Bob look after his digital friend, and Bob accidentally leaves him in a bread pervert frequented bread truck, and they have to go around to get it back with Gene's digital buddy not making it, so they have to restore a save and save the day. Cool. Okay, B story? Anything better than that? Louise and Tina take the change from the cash their mom gave them to buy a ton of candy, sticky hands, and ride the rocket ship outside a grocery store. They invent grabby hand candy grabbing and think they're gonna change the game. Linda gives them like $40 to go shopping, and she says they can have the change, so they get it all in coins, and it's just so infuriating. The whole episode is just off. Who is this for? It's another weird Gene episode, and sure, the Louise sticky stuff is funny for like the first minute, but it just drags on for way too long and has no real satisfying conclusion. It's just there till it isn't, and that's gotta be good enough. A Sprout-a Boy is a tucked in for a digital forever nap 5 out of 10. It's another Mother's Day episode! Woo! Linda reveals that there was a long-time family feud over a fork-hand stabbing and a house sale, and because of this family division, the beloved family sauce recipe has been lost. So the kids decide to try and find the recipe by going to see the other family. Huh, that's oddly wholesome. The kids get Gail to drive them, and Bob tries to keep Linda distracted while they do it. The kids meet the other side of the family, Nico and his mom Lorraine, played by Susie Essman of Curb Your Enthusiasm and a ton of other stuff. Turns out they don't even have the recipe and was actually just lost somewhere, and that's the end of that. Where the My Fuzzy Valentine resolution felt a little unearned, this story actually does have a disappointing yet satisfying conclusion. Linda sees that her kids really did care and wanted to do something nice for her, and that's genuinely sweet and elevates their characters as a whole. I also appreciate that they established Linda has a very Italian family. The gravy recipe is sacred. Honestly though, you don't think about it, but outside of like Forget About It, they're the only animated family that even hints at some kind of Italian heritage without it being a cop-out for one episode or something. It's the small, saucy things. The B story is Teddy trying to figure out a cover-up tattoo for his mom's gin rummy tattoo she doesn't want anymore. Oh, okay, sure. She ends up not wanting to change it at all, and yeah, that wacky Teddy adventure sure did happen. The B story is nothing and fine, and the A story actually has the kids doing something nice out of the kindness of their hearts for once. I'll take it. Sauce Side Story is a gravy slathered 8 out of 10. Don't you hate that word? Slathered. And here we are, the 2-part season finale. Wow, we haven't had a 2-part season finale in 8 seasons, and the last one was incredible. This one should be an absolute home run, right? Well, let's get into it. The kids watched Blade Runner with Bob the other night. That is tragically important. Tina has a new shirt that she really loves, and it has a horse on it, and it's funny, and she's happy about it. She wears it to school, where Tammy and Jocelyn have a new segment on their show, which is basically Hot or Not, where Tammy's braces are hot, and Tina's horse shirt, oh, big not. Yeah, honestly, this episode makes me hate Mr. Grant with a burning passion. That is just the failure of the educator that makes me suffer for 40 minutes. Tina goes home and starts writing in her erotic friend fiction about a sci-fi dystopia. And yeah, it's just Blade Runner, except also Ex Machina, so they look like Ex Machina robots while trying to rebel against the system. Who are these references for? Let's say your kid loves the visuals of this episode and really wants to see what it's based off of. Now, you can make an argument for Blade Runner. They're probably not going to get what's happening, you can skip through the bits, but how do you explain Ex Machina to anyone? It's just out of pocket, out of nowhere. Phenomenal film, don't get me wrong, just so odd. Alright, he's whining about the movie, so there's nothing else really going on, is there? Yeah. No. Not really. The B story is Bob gets some mean graffiti on his bathroom wall that says Bob's is crap. Yeah. Take that, Bob. Bob tries to figure out who did it and then just makes peace with himself and believes his burgers aren't crap. That's his whole arc. Man who has been told by successful chefs even this season that his food is good gets his confidence rattled by random bathroom graffiti. I get it, but I just think it could have been handled better. Anyway, Tina knows what she has to do and vows to smash the smart screen so the Hot or Not segment will stop and everyone can be free to wear what they want. I'm not gonna judge it till the end so that I'm fair, but yeah. Continued in part 2. Oh look, Tina is sneaking into the school to smash the screen and the family run to stop her and try and get her to leave so she doesn't get expelled for breaking a very expensive piece of tech being misused because a teacher is a moron. Wow! We get more Blade Runner, Ex Machina stuff, and yeah, sure, it's arguably the fantasy of the anthology episodes in an episode with consequences, but what does it do? What does it add? The entire thing is Tina feels harassed for wearing a cool horse shirt, goes to break the screen, doesn't. That's it. Like, I get what they're going for here. It's Tina escaping into her world of fiction and showing how the media we consume shapes how we view the world. I understand those elements. They're also just not that good here. Oh, look. Tammy runs into Tina and tells her they only did the Hot or Not segment because Tammy was worried people would think her braces were dumb and wanted to get ahead of the trend. Tammy being the worst. What a concept. Also, like, you could have had her and Tina teaming up. Maybe Mr. Grant goes mad with power and calls Tammy's braces not. Like, this had an opportunity for them to actually work together, for them to have a kind of connection, and she's still the worst. But Tammy and Tina have their moment, and now Tammy and Jocelyn aren't doing the segment anymore, and that's freed everyone to wear whatever they want, including Tina's totally cool horse shirt that she really wants to show off. Can we just be done with Tammy at this point? We have had her for 11 seasons, and I genuinely cannot think of one time she was better than decent. Comparing this to Bob destroys/saves the town is night and day. And I'm sure there's people that like this idea out there, but this two-parter is just not for me. It's just so fantastically nothing. Oh, the robots are dancing and free. Yay! Has nothing to do with Blade Runner or Ex Machina and just everyone dancing at the end. Which, yes, I get that can be the joke, that Tina is making this big melodramatic sci-fi spectacle over her feeling embarrassed about wearing a horse shirt because two nobodies said it looked dumb. It's such a simple premise, and it could be just exaggerated to the nines, but even those Blade Runner scenes are so especially muted because you have to make sure everyone can follow along and you can't take it where you'd want to. You have to make it funny even if they don't know what Blade Runner is. It feels like a finale that was held back from greatness, like it was 5 steps away. Bob's story didn't need to be there, but if you're gonna have it, give it some actual weight. Have him really spiral too. Give him a song where he's singing about how he's good enough or something. Instead, it's just, a weird parody / dramatic epic, I guess. The soundtrack is great for it, but that's really kind of about it. Some Like It Bot is an Oscar Isaac appreciating, Asimov reading, 6 out of 10. And there we have it, that's season 12! Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite episode? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends we're out here. This would be the end of the pre-movie era. This is what we were left on before going into the movie, and it was largely fine. Some episodes were better than others, but there was still that trademark consistency we've come to expect from the show. And looking at the post-movie era, at least just season 13, we're getting a significant paradigm shift. Bob's Burgers is continuing to evolve as a media experience, and the Bob's Burgers of season 13 is almost unrecognizable compared to Human Flesh all those episodes ago. Does that mean it's good? Well, you'll have to find out when we careen into season 13. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall, and if you want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership program today. $2 a month gets you special polls, posts, and even your name on this fancy list. Woo! Thank you all so much for watching, and like always, stay strong, keep fighting that good fight, and know that I believe in you. Things will get better. You just have to keep trying. You just have to keep getting up. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-comin'. Goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.